This video presents our research on the entrance to the Oomoan Gallery, using data from letter D57 and recent tweets about its location. This research is part of a context where exploring vast and varied areas far exceeds the capabilities of a single team. Thus, beyond simple exploration, we aim to provide other researchers with precise details about the locations we identified as potentially relevant. We hope this will facilitate access to these sites and help conduct more targeted explorations. One particular perspective seemed to point directly towards Mount Dupuy, in alignment with Digne-les-Bains and La Chavie. Using images extracted from the drone footage of Saint-Vincent Chapel, we create a 3D model through photogrammetry and align it with the 3D topography of the Digne-les-Bains region. This alignment allows us to observe the direction indicated by the image shared by OY, where the inverted view hypothetically shows the perspective of the gallery. The negative direction of this aligned view points towards the Lubac Mountains, in the alignment of Digne-les-Bains and La Chavie.
We cross-reference information from letters D57, D74, and tweet 200 by OY to update the altimetric profile. We align it between Digne-les-Bains and Le Vernet, and then trace the left edge of the grey zone, extending it into an anamorphic path on the map. The westernmost boundary of the grey area is traced as a line and converted into an altimetric profile, which suggests that the search area is now with a 25-kilometer radius instead of the previous 30-kilometer proposed by the ex-user account named Paul. We trace a 25-kilometer radius centered around the location of the St. Vincent Chapel. According to OY's resizing of the altimetric profile, this helps narrow down our focus to a specific area known as the Sheep Pen Point, falling near the central gray line and within OY's updated profile, which could correspond to potential latitude, longitude, and altitude markers. The selected area lies exactly within the confines of the 25-kilometer circle and the grayed-out zone's western boundary. A 3D-based topography analysis confirms that Saint-Vincent Chapel, seen in the foreground, aligns with Mount Dupuy in the background. The reciprocal alignment also holds true. The Dupuy mountain, south of the Grisonnière summit, demonstrates that visibility extends directly to Saint-Vincent Chapel, despite atmospheric conditions affecting clarity. Within this new range, we identify Mount Lubac, with Mount Dupuy at its southernmost point, where we focus our research, as other researchers have done.
The so-called Sheep Pen Point, located outside the grey zone, becomes a focal point of our research, guiding us towards the south-facing slopes of Mount Dupuy. Its southern slope, known as Mount Dupuy, offers visibility over La Chavie and Digne-les-Bains, and provides a direct view of Cheval Blanc from the alpine foothills of the Grisonnière Massif. A 3D simulation is created to analyse the visual relationships from each viewpoint. The initial step is to examine aerial photographs from the 1950s, using scans to contextualise elements reported in the letters and note any changes. Here, for example, we see that in 1950, the Saint-Vincent Chapel appears in a similar state as in the later records. This close-up of the Digne-les-Bains station area and the Bléon River illustrates the layout of the old train station and the railway lines.
We integrate these 1950 topographies into our 3D map, assigning specific colors to distinguish different regions. Starting with the old Digne-les-Bains station and the Bléon River, shown here in yellow, we trace the paths of Digne-les-Bains and La Chavie as they existed in 1850-1950. Next, we render these areas as emissive zones, so they project a blue light when overlaid on satellite imagery, highlighting their respective visibility points. We use red for La Chavie. The overlap combination of blue and red shows in violet locations, where La Chavie and Digne-les-Bains are both visible. This method allows us to produce high-resolution renders, identifying all cross-visibility points meeting the criteria from the Oomoan letters. It leads us to focus on the southern slope of Mount Dupuy in its southern area.
We add the old train station of Digne-les-Bains, since according to the letters, some segments of the railway would also be visible. The southern portion of Mount Lubac shows several purple areas, confirming cross-visibility between the old Digne station, La Havie, and the Bléon River. We set an isometric polygon following the 1,600-metre isoline, effectively enclosing our research area. This altitude boundary further corroborates the chosen expedition site as it surrounds the sheep pen point and aligns with our analysis. Since OY's altimetric profile is a rescaling of the initial one proposed in the original tweet, we simply verified that the area of interest matched the final altitude level of the profile and its distance from the chapel.
This direct view from the top of Mount Dupuy validated all the sightlines between La Javée, Digne-les-Bains, the old railway tracks, and the White Horse summit near the village of Saint-Pierre.
Following these analyses, we organised a field expedition to test our hypotheses. The first step involved visiting the Saint-Vincent Chapel, a key site mentioned in letter D57. We used a drone to capture images of the surrounding reliefs, thus confirming the visibility of the massif from this point. The route towards Saint-Pierre then led us to begin the ascent of the Grisonnière, where we verified the visibility of the White Horse summit and the nearby villages, such as La Havie and Digne. Upon reaching the top of Mount Dupuy, we were surprised to find that the eastern slope of the mountain did not follow a constant incline, as indicated by the maps and available topography. We then proceeded to perform a photogrammetry of this site and aligned it with the existing topography. We discovered completely flat areas, large enough to accommodate vehicles or sizable discs, up to 3 in total, allowing you to observe that the slope is not continuous. This terrain, near the sheep pen point, could indeed have hosted these discs, providing them with a concealed position, sheltered from direct view, as it might have been in 1950. This would also have given them a direct line of sight to Saint-Pierre, La Javie, and Digne-les-Bains. However, historical records suggest the discs were likely hidden in a wooded area. One such location could be the Colette Clearing, a depression in the middle of the forest which, despite its sloped surroundings, forms a natural shelter. It too could offer plausible visibility towards La Havie, Digne-les-Bains, and Saint-Pierre from below.
We departed from La Javie, taking the road through the village of Saint-Pierre to reach the beginning of the trek. Our exploration, including the hike, took over 5 hours. We estimated that this trek was of a high difficulty level due to the constant uphill elevation. We recommend having proper physical and material preparation for anyone attempting a similar climb. Taking the gravel paths and steep roads, we also suggest using a vehicle with high ground clearance, such as a 4x4, and to only attempt it in dry conditions. There is another route to the sheep pen point from the east, but we were informed that some sections were very dangerous, which is why we decided to avoid it. At the Mount Dupuy summit, using a 200mm telephoto lens mounted on an analog Canon AE1, we confirmed that the Saint-Vincent Chapel remained visible from high points, corroborating our initial hypotheses. This was not without difficulty, given the limitations of the old optical equipment. We took several 24 by 36mm shots on 400 ISO film towards the chapel. Despite this, a phone picture shot through the 200mm lens and camera viewfinder provided the clearest visibility of the chapel, even with the presence of a first ridge in front of it.
Roaming around the Grisonnière Plateau, we discovered a partially burned area below the Colette Clearing. This place was clearly localized, without any apparent burn marks on the ground. We also observed some strange rock formations, unusually structured, which caught our attention. However, while exploring, we did not find the gallery entrance. Many areas still remain to be explored around the region, and the scenery, along with the temperature, made it a place conducive to contemplation. We spent more time enjoying the paths, observing the vegetation, and as mentioned, we did not conduct any further studies on the rocks and plant species present in the locality compared to those described in the letters.
The south-facing sloped plateau also had flat areas that could have served as landing points for the 3 ships. The Sheep Pen Point is visible in the distance, but not from the Saint Vincent Chapel due to the intervening reliefs. It merits further exploration. Below the Colette clearing lies a forestry operation. Beyond the explored areas, other points remain to be considered. We identified several additional exploration zones that could potentially house the entrance to the Oomoan Gallery.
We encourage other researchers to continue this quest using the information we share in this video. To conclude on a lighter note, our expedition ended with a memorable DJ foam party in La Havie, a local tradition marking the end of our exploration.
Tu connais? Vas-y, chante, je t'entends que toi. Viens fort, on y va.